Hi guys. So now we're going to talk about your next drawing, which is your schematic diagram. As you saw when we looked at the drawings before, your schematic diagram is also known as your bubble diagram or your goose egg plan. So this is where you take those 4 functional use areas that we talked about at the beginning of the semester, and you decide how your property is going to be used. You're going to break up the property into those functional use areas. I'll show you an example. Okay, so here's an example of a schematic diagram. You can see the house in the middle, and you can see where the public, the private, the play, and the service areas are. And sometimes you might break it up into something more specific, like a deck. And one of the other things you should be able to see in this diagram is that those interior rooms of the house are also defined. And as we look at your assignment, we'll talk about that concept of the outdoor room and the indoor room. Okay, so here's your assignment. You should be able to see it on classwork. Now that you have your plot plan and existing conditions drawn, it's time to start working on your design. The first step of the design is a schematic diagram or goose egg or bubble plan. This is a general marking of the space and how it's used. Think about the spaces as outside rooms. So what you can see here is that you've got the inside rooms labeled, which I want you to do on your plan, because your kitchen, where your kitchen is in your house, really helps determine where your deck's going to be, maybe where your outdoor eating area is. If you have a bathroom over here, you don't want to necessarily have a lot going on outside of your bathroom, okay? So the idea that the rooms flow from inside to outside is part of that schematic diagram, okay? So you're going to start with your existing conditions drawing, and you're going to put a new piece of tracing paper over it. Now, hopefully you guys have your tracing paper that you can use for this drawing. It sounds like most people got it. If you don't, you can come out here to school and pick some up. I'm here every afternoon. You can also make do with more drawing paper if that's what you need to do. It's just that the drawing paper doesn't allow you to just trace. You have to start your plot plan over. So you're going to make a new title block, and you want to make sure that that title block, which is set up exactly like the other ones, has good guidelines. See how Taylor's guidelines are really great. And when she gets to the third block, it's now called schematic diagram, okay? That's going to be part 2 of your assignment. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to decide where those rooms are in your house. It's really important. You don't have to draw them out, you just have to label them so that when we look at your schematic diagram, we can tell where your flow is. Next, you're going to look over your family survey, and this is where it's important that you really know your customer. You're going to look at what is it that the customer wants in that landscape design? How do you need to use your property? Let's go look at a different drawing so we can see some different schematic diagrams as we finish up talking about this. So here you can see another schematic diagram. There's no trees, there's no shrubs, there's no hardscape, there's no flowering plants, there isn't anything except those bubbles that are talking about how is this property going to be used. They're going to put a new driveway. Here's some public space in the front of the house, the play space. This service space is going to be a vegetable garden. You can see the interior rooms here with the doors that open and close to the outside, okay? So that's really important. Now you're going to be doing all this in pencil first. Sometimes doing these bubbles can be intimidating. People get nervous about doing them, but don't worry, just kind of jump into it. Here's another one we can look at here. Let's open this one up. Yeah, this one is much more bubbly. See the round circles. It's okay if the spaces aren't completely filled in. You can see here Maria has a little bit of space in between hers, but she also has her interior rooms lined up and how she's going to use it. So this is a private space, and she kind of put some parentheses underneath for hot tub. Here's a play space. Here's a private space that's patio. Here's a play space that's a pond. It's okay to do that way if you want. Service space that's a garden. But the important thing is that you're just defining the functional use areas in this schematic diagram. So let's go back to your assignment. Make sure we go over everything together. All right, so you're going to create those rooms. You're just going to decide how the interior rooms are, how the functional spaces are. So you're going to do it all in pencil first, and then you're going to ink it in. And you're also going to add circulation routes or circulation paths between the spaces. And you're going to use arrows. So you can see here on Maria's, she's got the circulation path. It goes out of the house this way. There's actually a couple entrances to this hot tub that you can move between the play and the private area here. Maybe there's some kind of walk path. Or maybe it's just the way that you envision people moving through the property. Here's the circulation path on Malia's here. She used some different kinds of arrows, but you can see that she's showing how people are going to move around the property. All right? So this is schematic diagram. You're going to have a week to get this done. And this is the last step before you go on to your master plan. So you've done your plot plan where you just get all the boundaries of your house. You've done your existing conditions where you've taken a survey of everything that's already on the property. And now you're going to do your schematic diagram, which is that drawing that starts getting you to really think about how you're going to use the property with those functional use areas that we've been talking about for a long time. Once this is done, the last step in the series is the master plan, and that's where you really get to have fun and be creative. But it's worth taking the time to do this schematic diagram so you really have some thought work going into how it's going to be used. Remember to make guidelines for everything. All this lettering needs to have guidelines. Okay? Don't worry about your mountain views to the west. Just make sure you have all your guidelines and do a great job. Good luck.